Hello and welcome back to Hamilton. In the previous episode we've built our first overground metro line, and this time we'll be building an ultimate transit-oriented mixed-use development. That's a lot of words to digest, but it's actually not as complicated as it sounds. Mixed-use development refers to having commercial, office and residential in one building or in very close proximity, and transit-oriented development means exactly that. Being built around a strong transit network. And as you can learn from an RMTransit video, link in the description, the proper way to go about TOD is building the transit first. So that is exactly what we're going to do. So we already have an overground metro station in place and the area that will be our leisure and entertainment district in place. I've decided to once again draw a simple map to have a clear plan for what we're going to build. As you can see from this super minimalistic plan that looks like something a 5-year-old would draw, we have one overground metro line going through this district and another 2 underground lines planned. And those 2 lines will be eventually connecting to another 3 underground lines, all of which are shown in red. Red in this case is not a color for a specific line, but rather for a certain network, the underground metro. Another mode of transit that I decided to add to this TOD development is a BRT line that goes through this district all the way to the suburbs that we'll be building later on. On top of that, we also have a regular bus connecting our innovation district and leisure district with a major transit hub, and the Hudson Square aka Hudson Yards complex, which in our case is not an investment opportunity for the filthy rich but rather an actual functioning office and commerce complex. On top of that, you can also see a loop line inspired by Tokyo's Yamanote line going completely overground, as well as a bicycle highway connecting this area with the old city center. I'm also considering a tram line to better integrate this area with the nearby destinations. Another huge part of this development is pedestrian/shared street and a walking path network. That pretty much sums up our transit options. Now let's talk about the things we're actually going to build here. On the far left you can see a light green area that represents a small canal side park. Dark green stands for high density mid-rise residential. Everything in dark blue is high density commercial, light blue is low density commercial, and everything cyan is representing our office space. Of course, it's not going to be separated as obviously, we'll have quite a few mixed use buildings that we'll make with the help of Move It mode. In the end, we won't be sticking to the plan 100%, but it's nice to have some outline of what we're trying to build here. There is also another concept that is becoming more and more popular within the city planning community called 15-minute city. The idea is that you should be able to get to work, do your grocery shopping, medical checkups and other daily activities within the walking or cycling distance, which is approximately 15 minutes or less. 15 minutes of walking or cycling is close enough for most people. You might hear about some other variations like 10-minute cities or even 1-minute cities, but the general idea is pretty much the same. Reduce the amount of car trips and get the street space back to pedestrians and cyclists. That would obviously reduce the pollution and create a better living environment for everyone. Enough planning and let's start building. First I decided to build the BRT road, and that's going to connect the areas that you've seen previously on the map, and I actually wanted to find a separate BRT network road, but in the end I just decided that a bus lane and less stops and higher speeds will actually do exactly the same trick, and this road is actually better. It's easier to connect it to the vanilla roads and any other road assets, so that is looking much better. Another thing that we're going to do is to install the metro stations approximately where they're going to be for those metro lines that I mentioned early on. And for now they're not going to be connected because we don't really have enough people to use them, but later on we're going to connect at least the one that goes into the CBD area. And I decided to put the bus depot on this side as well as a intercity bus station. So these two will be in a really close proximity to the district that we're building today. And the other end of this line is going to be in our yet to be built suburbs. We actually have them, but they look really messy right now, as you can see. But that doesn't really matter because we still need the bus connections, we still need some people to actually do the jobs in our commercial areas and office areas, so we're still going to have it. And here we're going to have another bus hub next to the innovation district. We're going to get back to that later on. So these things, as you can see, I didn't really stick to the original plan completely, and that's gonna be even more evident throughout this video, because when you start building, new ideas pop up. The old ideas that something that looks good on the plan doesn't necessarily go just as well when you're actually building it. So I decided to change a thing or two, and to be honest, I've made this build a couple of times. I rebuilt a couple of things, and at first I thought it actually looked really messy, but you know, the more time you give to it, the more time you spend on it, the better it looks in the end. And here we can see our commercial street taking shape. This is going to be a pedestrian commercial street. I think I still didn't do the traffic manager limitations, like the restriction for the traffic, but we're still going to do it later on. It doesn't really matter. The main thing is that the street is a shared / completely pedestrian street, so we're not going to have any vehicles other than delivery ones. And it would be really nice to have some kind of a mode to only allow the delivery vehicles to come during the night, but I don't know if that's possible. I don't think it's possible now, so we're going to stick to what we have, which is restrict every other vehicle except for emergency and delivery. And here we have this kind of ugly looking interchange, but that's going to work anyway because we need some kind of connection between these two roads, and I don't think we can do something like a roundabout, so that doesn't really matter. So we're going to connect this another bus line that's going to connect these two districts. That bus line is not going to be a BRT, just a regular bus line. We're going to get back to that later on. And at first I thought that this street is going to be just a 4-lane road. I wanted to put a tram, but then I couldn't figure out where to stick it, and you will see that we're going to do it later on. And the only thing that didn't make it to the final result, I think, is the bicycle highway. That is something that we're going to add later on, and it's much easier to work on something that you already have, that's already built, and trying to adjust it. So I just decided to build it first and try to polish the small things later on. This area near the metro stations is supposed to be some kind of a fancy shopping high density area, and even for this area I've made it a couple of times. I didn't like it, remade it, and in the end I'm more or less satisfied with what we have. It's not ideal, but at least that looks like what it's supposed to be anyway. And this pedestrian road is going to be connecting to another pedestrian road cutting through. Those pedestrian roads, they still allow for some kind of traffic like cars, but the speed is highly restricted, so for most people it's going to be much more convenient to walk between these areas. And they also have plenty of transportation options, so most of them won't really need to jump into their cars unless they need to go somewhere further away. But once again, as of now we have all of the major destinations connected to this area. I think apart from the train station. The train station is something that we might need to connect later on once we have another underground metro line going through. But apart from that, this area is really connected to a lot of other destinations in the city, including the airport, including other major commercial and residential areas. And we also need to get a proper connection to the CBD area. As of now, we only have one overground that goes underground later on. We have that line that we built last time, but apart from that, yeah, it's already kind of starting to take shape, and it's connected to this innovation / green district, which is right nearby. You can literally walk like a walking distance away. And most of the destinations within this district, I'm trying to build them in a way that maybe we're not going to have as many buildings stick together like I planned initially. I wanted to have like office, commercial and residential in like one building, but there is one thing with this game that I don't really like, is that the commercial areas, they really make a lot of noise, and if you build them right next to the residential areas, your citizens are going to get sick, and that is one of the downsides. I think we're still going to do some kind of mixed use building, like 3-in-1, something like that, more like office, residence and commercial, but that's going to come later. For now, we just have everything in really close proximity, so you can do all of your shopping. You can do shopping, entertainment, leisure, work, and you can live in almost the same place, like this teeny tiny district. Everything, I think in real life there'll be something like a within the 10-minute walking kind of radius, and the office as well as the commerce are connected to many transportation options, so you have a lot to choose from, and that's supposed to be really convenient. We'll see. And actually, if you've seen the cinematics in the beginning, you can tell that they actually loving it. The Sims are loving it, and they're using it a lot. There is plenty of people in this area. Perhaps one of the reasons for that is that the city is still really tiny. Even with this added population of this district, we only have like 15,000 people. So there is a lot of people coming to the same areas. They don't really get to spread out. So that might be one of the reasons. But otherwise, everything is working and the traffic wasn't all that bad. And what you see now is commercial area right next to the station. And we're also going to build the offices on the other side. And if we go downwards from here, we're going to have the residential area on that empty lot in front of it. I've actually changed a lot of things as I was going, because something looks really good on the plan, or when you imagine it as... when you imagine what it's going to look like, but eventually when you start building, it just doesn't feel right, or doesn't seem right, or it's not up to scale. And I know you can say that I could use the procedural objects, but that is not something that I really wanted to do for this particular build. I will probably start using it later on, but for now I just wanted to build with everything that I had on hand. So that's pretty much what we are seeing here. And this particular area is right next to 2 metro stations, so the idea is that you can easily get to your office, you can easily get to your residential area if you walk down the under the bridge, and you can also get to 2 different lines, overground metro line and underground metro line, as well as the BRT stop right next to this area. And the residential area is not built yet. It's going to be on the left side of this area, and as you can see, it's actually a really big piece of land. I didn't plan to build a really massive area. I wanted to do something slightly smaller, just right next to the train station, but then I just decided that it's going to be kind of a good idea to connect it all to the district that we already have, and make it a little bit closer to the park, so we can probably develop that area in the coming episodes. So that is exactly what happened. And in the end, I actually wanted to add some bicycle highways or bicycle lanes, but I couldn't find a way to make it look satisfying enough, so I decided to leave it as it is for now. I tried to build sort of like an elevated bicycle highway, but then it doesn't look nice. And then I also thought about using the roads with bicycle lanes, but I couldn't find a suitable road, because I wanted to have a tram. I wanted to do it from the beginning, and eventually I added it, but it doesn't really look nice, or you have to build a really wide, massive road, and that was not something that I was up to. So I just decided to keep it as it is for now. And this particular area that you see now, we're gonna have plenty of offices here. And as you can see, there is an office with the shopping mall attached to it, right next to the train station. So that's one of our mixed-use buildings. And I was just trying to make the area look not too artificial. I wanted to make it look a little bit nicer, so I tried to use a variety of different buildings. But since I don't really have that many assets that are really good looking, I think we will still have to use certain buildings more than once, or maybe more than twice. But that's actually okay, as long as we have a kind of a good looking skyline, because I didn't really want to the hard part without the procedural objects mode is to make it look up to scale, to make it look like it's all in one piece. And I didn't really want to have like really tall towers, or really low, like low rise buildings. I wanted to have something like mid-rise, and maybe 1 or 2 mini skyscrapers. So that is exactly what we're having here. And I think this area, I might actually change a thing or two later on, but for now that is what it's going to look like. And I'm satisfied with the end result. We're gonna see it in a couple of moments, but you know, practice makes perfect, so we're still gonna change and build on top of what we have. And the reason why I didn't really want to build something oversized is because I used to have a really massive city, and it kind of feels like it's easier to build when you already have something in place and you just change it to make it look better. But actually it just makes it more of a mess instead of actually like, you cannot focus on creating quantity and quality. You have to choose one. You cannot build a massive area that also looks nice without spending like 15 hours, 20 hours on it, and that's not really something that I want to do. I want to have plenty of small, nice looking areas all across the city, and then we're gonna see where do we go from there. So this particular area, we have this overground metro line that's going underground, and I decided to kind of cover it up with some office buildings, and we also have some parking garages under the elevated section, and that is in order to not waste any space. I just thought that I didn't really want to have too much parking spaces, and especially the overground ones. So here you can see we have at least 2 underground parking garages, and we also have those overground parking garages, and the only reason is that I didn't really want to waste any space under the elevated rail. And you know, nobody would like to stay in a park or walk under the train, so the only option that I had is to put some kind of commercial building, but that didn't really fit in well in that area. So I decided to just stick to 1 or 2 parking garages. Given that we have a really massive office complex, that would kind of make sense, because we're going to have plenty of cars, even though we have all the other transportation options available. You know, it's better to build something that is going to be sufficient enough, something that can sustain this area. So that was exactly what I went for. And we're also going to add a couple of commercial buildings, but they'll be on this side. And as you can see here, we're going to have another metro station. That's one of those underground, part of the underground network, but that one is going to be built much later, because we don't really have enough population. I think at this point the population is something like what do we have, 11,000? After this build we have like up to 20,000 maybe, so that's not really that much. For the high density commercial area, I mostly used the buildings from Modern City Center pack, and I also used a couple of buildings from the workshop, and unfortunately I couldn't find enough buildings to have a really nice variety, because I wanted to have something modern and something really attractive for this area, but unfortunately yeah, there are not too many options, so I had to kind of improvise and use the same buildings 2 or maybe more times. But that is still actually okay, because we're still going to change this area a little bit later on, because the area is going to be developing constantly. But for now, I think that really looks good enough. At least good enough, really nice. And we also added a couple of lower density commercial buildings, so those are hopefully going to be working really well all together. And I also changed this area in front of the shopping mall a couple of times, so yeah. In the end, we're gonna get something really good looking, and I think that was really worth the effort. And if you have any suggestions, feel free to let me know in the comments below. So this area on the other side is gonna be the high density residential. We're gonna have to move a thing or two, and this high density residential area is going to accommodate probably up to 10,000 people, hopefully. We're going to use high density mid-rise buildings. I don't really want to have anything way too tall or way too low, so we really try to keep it all the same scale. And this pedestrian road, I'm actually thinking to extend the shared street all the way to the old city center, maybe at some point. I don't know if it's going to work really nicely or not, but we're going to try anyway. So on this side, I decided to add a bicycle street, as you're gonna see from the preview video in the beginning and in the end in the cinematics. So, and I also decided to add the shared street, so that it's actually, once you get into the residential area, you can You still can drive, you still can park your car there, but you cannot really go all that fast because the area is mainly meant for the pedestrians and for people who are living here. So yeah, bicycles, walking, and you still can park your car, but that might go at some point. But once again, I didn't really want to put anything other than that under the elevated rail section, because I don't think it's a really nice experience to walk there or do anything there, because, well, who wants to have a park under the rail? It's a little bit noisy, it's not that clean. So yeah, anyway, we have plenty of parks. We're gonna have a riverside or canal side park built later on. I wanted to do it all at once, but eventually I just decided that it's gonna be a little bit too much for one video, so that is not gonna happen in this particular one. And I also wanted to try something like public housing buildings, but turns out they're all a little bit way too big for the area, and everything that doesn't fit to this scale will have to go. So eventually I decided to stop experimenting and just stick to a couple of condo buildings, and the area is gonna look so much nicer. Let's see what it looks like. Alright, so now we can see that the area is fully complete, and it's kind of looking like everything is where it's supposed to be. So here we have the residential area. Right here we have plenty of high density, high-rise condos, but they are not really all that high. Mid-rise to kind of really not that high-rise, if that makes sense. And we have plenty of residential buildings over here. They're slightly taller, slightly bigger, but actually they provide housing for almost the same amount of people. And we have all the amenities inside this area. We have the high school, elementary school, fire brigade, and other things that they might need. And they also have an access to this park on this side, which is a part of our eco innovation whatever district. So that is one of the parks that they have access to in this area. And then we have this commercial area that is actually pretty crowded. Let's zoom in, let's see what it looks like on the street level. And still, it doesn't look all that bad. This area is still kind of a little bit messy, but if we go slightly this way, you'll see that it looks actually, it doesn't look all that bad. Let's take a look. Alright, zooming in. Okay. We still have cars, it's a shared street, it's not a completely pedestrian street, but it still kind of looks more or less nice. We have plenty of commercial areas for them to go to. Most of them actually don't get enough employees because we don't have enough population, but that is something to address later on. And I'm using the what is it called, the no abandonment mode, which means that none of these buildings are going to get abandoned even if they don't get enough workers. So all of the luxury shopping and all of the high-end buildings are kind of off to this side, next to the metro stations, obviously. The prime location, you can see the Apple Store, the Giorgio Armani, and other things like that. And here we have a really crowded tram stop. Let's try to zoom in. Okay. Yeah. So here's my attempt to build a bicycle lane, but I might as well scrap it because it doesn't really look all that nice. So eventually we have this one. It doesn't seem right because it is a two-way bicycle lane, and it's on one side of the road. So then the cars on this side are getting one lane. You can achieve it with the traffic manager. You can prevent them from driving on this lane. But then it just still doesn't make as much sense. It just looks a little bit messy, so that is something to keep in mind. I'll probably redesign it. It might as well stay in this area. It might be like a one lane, one way bicycle lane as like in the middle of the road. But we'll see. What is that guy doing? He's driving right into the people right there. What is he doing? All right. He really needed to make that. That's not even a U-turn. Is he trying to drive into the store? Alright, that's something weird. Anyway, we also have this BRT system. You can see one of those red buses. And yeah, so the area is really well connected to everything. We have these overground trains here. We have the BRT system. We have the tram lines. Then we have another metro line that is still not connected, but it's going to get connected fairly soon. And maybe at some point this bicycle highway, bicycle lanes are going to extend all the way down here. Maybe. We'll see how that goes. So here we have another office building, and not just one, but plenty of them. We have this City Hall building. I think it's probably from Toronto or somewhere else. I don't know. It's just going to be here for now. We have these. We have the massive high school, a massive elementary school, elderly care, another residential complex down here called Avenue 5 or something like that. You can search it on the workshop. And we have this cut-through park all the way from one side of the road to the other. We have another office building, 2 of them down here, commercial and office. Here is our mixed-use office and shopping mall with underground and overground parking in the back. Let's take a look at this office area. So here you can see we have this overground parking garage, and it's getting crowded because we have plenty of people in this area, plenty of people working, plenty of people living here. Ideally, I would probably prefer them to not drive as much and use the public transit, but there is also a chance that they might be living on the other end of this neighborhood. But anyway, you cannot, with the game mechanics, you cannot prevent them from driving everywhere, and sometimes people might be working in this area and living on the other end of the city. And that's actually quite realistic because not everyone is going to be working right next to where they live. So that is one thing to keep in mind. And let's take a look at this canal side park. This is a modular, this is actually a park asset with some parking lots. I don't know, it's not perfect, but for now that will do. Eventually, at some point, maybe we're going to have a really nice riverside park going all the way to the other side, to the residential neighborhood as well, and we'll see how that works out later on. That is pretty much it. That's pretty much the area. We also have a massive what is it called, let's see, what's the name of that thing? We have a commercial building that is supposed to be something like a massive grocery store. Let's take a look if that's what it is. It seems so. Unfortunately, I don't really remember the name, but that kind of makes sense anyway. So they have all of the things they might really want. We have another residential area down here. So as you can see, this commercial area is kind of surrounded by residential and office. So everything is in one area in really close proximity. Let's take a look. Here we even have the views of the harbor and the train station and the CBD area. So that is not that far. You can enjoy the skyline, the hustle and bustle of the city without actually living in that noisy area. And oh, we actually have some people on the balcony here as well. So that is a really nice area to hang out for them. And that is pretty much it for today. I hope you liked this video. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment. And I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.